Do you still play StarCraft 2? Perhaps you've stopped playing ladder games, but you still enjoy watching the premier tournaments, such as GSL. I think this describes a lot of StarCraft 2 former players, except there's one thing that's bringing a lot of us back to the game, and is actually a growing part of StarCraft 2. What I'm referring to is the co-op game mode. In this video, I'm going to give a quick introduction, explain how to get into the game, why I think it's really good and really smartly monetized, and also why it makes me optimistic about the future of Stormgate. So in short, the game is a two-player game mode where you can queue as a pre-made party or as an individual, in which case you'll be placed with an appropriate teammate based on the map and difficulty level that you've selected. Each time you play a co-op mission, you choose to be one of many commander units, which is essentially like choosing between Zerg, Protoss or Terran, except with a unique twist. Playstyles of each commander are quite wildly different. For example, if you play as Tychus, it's very micro focused. You don't have to think about macro at all. When the game begins, you have 100 supply, never have to build any production buildings, and you basically have Tychus and up to 3 or 4 other of his mercenaries to micromanage around. These are basically kind of like hero units. Almost feels like you're playing a MOBA. On the other hand, if you play as a character such as Swan, the Hyperion's mechanic from the main story, then it's very much about building a giant mech army. Your main production building is the factory, and you can produce lots of static defense, as well as having a drilling laser, which you can activate to basically augment your attacks. I think I basically sort of described the two extremes there. There's the entirely micro-focused playstyle, and then heavy macro, mechanical, static defense kind of playstyle. And all the commanders fall somewhere within a range and have their own unique spells and abilities. And because the different missions have very different objectives, some are sort of survival, where you're just being attacked by an absolute onslaught of waves and waves of enemies and have to survive for a fixed time period, until the getaway ship leaves the planet or something. Or there are escort missions and ambush missions where you have to attack a moving train and things like that. They lend themselves to different commanders for different missions. And as you complete these missions, you earn experience on the particular commander which you used to complete the mission. And as they level up with this experience, you gain new units that they can produce, you gain new perks and special abilities, usually tied into their sort of unique spells that they have. So in the case of Swan, his laser would get new abilities, new upgrades. And if you progress to a certain point, then start to unlock almost like a talent tree, like a skill tree, where you can choose specific bonuses from a choice of several that really start to customize your commander in the way that you like. Now, one of the first examples, I think, of really smart design in co-op is around experience and leveling up your commanders. Basically, when you queue a co-op mission, you've got a few choices, and these can dictate how much of a bonus amount of experience you receive on completion. First choice is map selection. Now, you can queue specific maps that you like, and I do that, and you get a fast pop, within a minute. Or you can queue a random map, and you'll get bonus XP, which is similar to the kind of idea of, queuing a support in League of Legends or queuing a healer in Overwatch. Kind of get a bonus for playing a less popular role or for just making the ladder experience more fluid. Now, the next thing around XP, which I think really helps to encourage people to come back and play the game day after day, week after week, is, first of all, there's a first win of the day XP bonus, very much like League. Then there's also weekly mutations to maps. So one particular map, which you will know, will then have 3 unique qualities attached to it for that week. So the units could have special abilities, there could be environmental effects, there could be changes to the objective, maybe you have less time or something. And basically that gives you a big XP bonus and can be completed once. And obviously it's much more challenging because of the extra mutations which just add to the sort of chaos. Now the other real big factor is the difficulty choice. And there's a huge range from like novice up to like 8 levels of brutality kind of idea. And you can get something like a 300% XP bonus at the very highest difficulty levels. And up to a certain point, you can solo queue on these difficulties. And then when you get into the very high difficulties, you have to be in a pre-made party. And then there may be requirements such as you must have a level 15 or above commander. Now, I would liken this to the kind of anti-smurfing, anti-griefing mechanics you see in other games where, for example, in League of Legends, you can't queue ranked with people until your account is level 30. So I don't want to be in a brutal game, difficulty game, where my teammate is level 1 and hasn't played before. So there's a kind of, for both parties' best interests, there's a kind of barrier there. Now here's where Blizzard potentially really make their money with this model, and where I think Stormgate could maybe do the same. All of the commanders are free to play, the whole selection. You can find the ones that really suit your playstyle, the ones that you really enjoy. And like I say, they're very inclusive. You can find some which completely disregard the need for macro, which I know quite a lot of people find a bit of a chore in StarCraft, and maybe is quite, not beginner friendly, let's say. Now the thing is, you don't actually own all of these commanders. You own about 4 of them, and by owning a commander, you can take them beyond level 5. You can take them all the way past 15 to the point where you start selecting various perks, and then you can prestige and take like built-in permanent bonuses to your commander. So there's some real power gains to be had by leveling up your commander and further customization to make it really play the way you want it to play. So you can only take a few of these commanders beyond 5 unless you buy further commanders. You can play them all to 5. Maybe you get hooked on one, you really like it, but you don't own it. You have to buy it to take it further. So if you think back to the fact that I mentioned that certain difficulty levels require you to have a commander beyond level 15, and that for playing on high difficulty levels, you get much more experience for completing missions. There's almost a pay-to-win element here where you need to unlock some commanders, so you've got a nice selection to play from that are beyond level 15, so you can participate in the most difficult versions of the maps, the missions. But it's not pay-to-win in the sense that you're not competing against other players, you're not ruining somebody else's game experience. You're just making things better for yourself. And I think I'm a bit uncomfortable, but I think it's in an okay place. And you have to make money somehow with these games. I don't think it's by any means a bad idea. So if you think about everything that I've described so far, maybe you're starting to see how this is a really, really good model for a game that can sort of persist and grow and have a long lifespan and make money all along the way. So you can add commanders over time. People like them, they buy them. You can add different missions over time with different sort of objectives and playstyles. Different missions might favor different commanders, so people broaden out their commander set because they want to play those kind of missions to the best of their ability. New missions, new commanders, keeps people interested. You've got daily and weekly rewards. You've got character progression. It takes a long time to level up your commanders. There's a lot there for people to get their teeth into and enjoy. And there's microtransactions along the way. And I think it's pretty good. I think it's growing in StarCraft 2, a game that's dying. This is growing. So the thing that really put me off StarCraft 2 laddering was when I got into a situation IRL with work and everything else where my playtime was reduced and I couldn't change that. It was really demotivating to go from a high rank and not be able to play enough to keep my level up where I was. And just every time I played, I would go down a little bit further down the ladder. And just knowing that I was falling behind all the time and going backwards, the sort of feeling of regression and just the wanting to play more but knowing I can't. Whereas in this game mode, you can do one mission once a day and you get big rewards, you feel the progression, you've gained experience, you've leveled up your commander a little bit further, and it just takes away all the anxiety and the negativity and the pressure. It's just fun. It's good fun to play. It's really interesting, and for good reason. It has a big community behind it. Now here's where things get really interesting for Stormgate, because Kevin Dong, aka Monk, you may recognize from the battle report where he was playing against TLO, and he made base, then didn't defense it. Well, he formerly worked at Team Liquid and Blizzard, where he was the chief corp designer for StarCraft 2. So a real driving force behind this bright spot in the later years of StarCraft. Well, he's now at Frost Giant, and he's lead designer on the co-op experience. So I'm pretty damn excited. The one thing that I've noticed in the StarCraft 2 co-op community is that people love to sort of share their exploits with each other in terms of, here's the replay of me and my friend completing Brutal 6 and, the most difficult and the fastest clears and just impressive feats. And when we think about competitive Stormgate and the idea that we're trying not to entirely focus on 1v1 in terms of the competitive scene, I think there might be scope for co-op to have its own sort of competitive area. You think of World of Warcraft, for example. I didn't think it would be popular. I didn't think I'd find it interesting to watch, but god damn it, I do. The idea of dungeon invitationals and world first races where teams of players are fighting against computer content, PvE, player versus environment, and they're having a race. Who can clear 5 dungeons the quickest? Is it this elite team of raiders or this other elite team of raiders? It's really, really engrossing. Loads of people watch it. And I wonder if you could have some sort of co-op racing or co-op survival, who can survive the most waves. I think that could be part of a team-based sort of pro league competitive scene potentially. Be the 1v1 round, it could be the 3v3 battle, it could be the co-op round. So in summary, a lot of the problems which maybe limit the number of people playing serious 1v1 ranked ladder-based RTS like StarCraft 2 are alleviated by the co-op mode. And I'm very optimistic for co-op in Stormgate. I really think it has a lot going for it, this game mode. It's inclusive, it encourages a range of playstyles, macro, micro, spell-based, casters, etc. It's something you can just do in short bursts. You can play 1 map a day, 1 mission a week, and you still feel the sense of progression. It's got a lot of depth, a lot of replayability, and it can be monetized really well. So I think it's a real win, and I think it's definitely one of the things that Stormgate should be focusing on for launch. We're making a series of videos on Stormgate, just commenting on the footage we've seen so far and the design choices that we know the team are making. So if that's of interest, then I've left a link here to the playlist, which I'll be building over time. I'm also just planning to make general RTS related content. So if that kind of stuff interests you or you've enjoyed some of these videos, there's a sub button. I'd really appreciate if you would come and see another video in the future.